Hello, my name is Glovers. I am a 3D Zelda speedrunner who primarily runs Twilight Princess, Breath of the Wild, and Ocarina of Time, though I do run all of them. And I am submitting Goron Mines RTA for Twilight Princess. It's an interesting category, it's a unique category. It's not a full game run. The short of it is that we just beat Goron Mines from a fresh file, but I'll get into the intricacies and the history of the category during the run. In the interest of time, let's just get started. So I'll be starting the run in 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so Goron Mines RTA is a very fast category compared to most Twilight Princess categories. It is a not full game run, and its history is that it is an old race category. So Twilight Princess, fortunately, unfortunately, depends on how you look at it, has an any percent run that has stayed around the 3 hour mark for many, many years. And the community, in the interest of, well, wanting to race and not sacrifice 3 hours of their time, they came up with some different categories, and this is one of them. This is what is the most popular one. This is Goron Mines RTA. You start a fresh file, and you beat Goron Mines as quickly as possible. So you start out how a lot of Twilight Princess runs do, where you take a rock and you clip through a gate like I just did, and you do what is called back in time. It's a frame perfect glitch where you reset to on the same frame that you void, and that gives you control of Link on the title sequence here. Now, if we save that file like I just did there, then we're going to be in South Faron with not real heroes' clothes, Sword and Sword, or Hylian Shield, but a fake version. They're not actually in our inventories, but Link wears them just the same and they function exactly as though they were real to begin with, which is very nice in just about every run. It's done in, well, just about every run. And already we're off, breaking the game and with a bunch of tools that we're supposed to not have already, like the Hylian Shield we're not supposed to have until around Goron Mines. So, yeah. We have a pretty quick start to it, and then we're just going to do some rolling here. We need to get through some of the intro before anything starts to pick up in the run. Now, Twilight Princess is interesting in that it has such a long any percent, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Goron Mines RTA. So like I said, we're going to beat Goron Mines for a fresh file, but what makes that interesting is in a lot of Twilight Princess runs, and like you will see in the other submissions for Twilight Princess runs that I'm doing, if you watch those, then you'll notice that a lot of Twilight Princess is built around doing boomerang LJAs or around, these different movement techs and dungeon diving, and we will see a lot of the majority of the run is dungeon diving. It's Goron Mines. But these sequence breaks, these cool end game dungeons like Arbiter's Grounds, Palace of Twilight, boomerang LJAs, fun techniques to get through everything as quickly as possible. In Goron Mines RTA, we have a very different arsenal at our disposal. We will not be getting the boomerang. We'll actually be getting very few items to begin with. We have, so far, the only real item that we've gotten is the lantern, and we will be getting one more item, and that's the iron boots, though we will also be getting the master sword. Those will be the 3 things that we will get for the entire run. Everything else is either the fake equipment that I've already gotten, or is just not in the run. Those are the only things that actually will show up either as the Master Sword or on our item wheel. Now, what does that actually mean? It means that we're going to not be relying on the equipment and what they can do for us, but more what can I do with just the actual movement controls in the game? What can be done with rolling, side hopping, moving around as Wolf or doing simple jump attacks, things like that. No boomerang, no ball and chain, no spinner, certainly no bombs. And yeah, finishing up the saving Talo sequence there, this is again just an introductory sequence that's required to advance the state of of Orden, so that we can then do this goats sequence where we're going to see a bunch of people named Stahl. There's one. There's a few more. Look at all these people named Stahl. How many of them do you think are lying? So this is all just to continue to advance Orden's state. Actually, this doesn't advance Orden's state, but saving Talo did and puts us here. We just need to do the goats sequence to get past that. So next we'll be going to, now that we've done goats and we've progressed that state, we're going to be able to immediately go and do our first wolf sequence, which is the first castle trip. So we're going to just quickly roll our way over there. And yeah. So wolf movement is super duper fun. Everyone loves their awoos, right? Unfortunately, there are no awoos in Goron Mines RTA. I lied. There are 2 awoos, and we certainly will awoo there. Crawling into this crawl space here, grabbing a single rupee. That is super difficult to do. You have to walk in a straight line where you can't go in any other direction. Very hard strat there. All right, now immediately into the wolf sequence here, we're going to do a strat called box, or at least attempt to do a strat called box break, where you keep an internal count of just timing it and do a combo that I unfortunately missed there. You can break that box as Link goes into this cutscene here, which saves 3 frames so that you don't have to break the box afterwards and can just run over and immediately dig down. Fun little strat. Unfortunately, I didn't get it there, but always cool to see. Sewers is very cool in a lot of ways. It highlights a lot of what Goron Mines RTA itself highlights, which again isn't those breaky glitches, weird tech or anything. It's the movement and just general control of the character. That's what Sewers is all about, is how good are you at controlling Wolf Link, and how tight is your movement, how good are you at spacing. There's a few different things that you can do here. So what you'll see me do here is I'm going to jump off immediately, dash, C up, and then dash again. So that's called a dash cancel. There are 2 ways to do a dash cancel, but really there's more than 2 ways to do dash cancel. Really, the general prescription is doing some action that interrupts Link's animation while dashing will reset your dash. So you see me do another one there where I did a dash and then be attacked off the edge. That is itself a dash cancel. So small movement tech like that really add up and really are highlighted here. That right there, talking to Midna before entering the cutscene, removes a few text boxes and saves a few frames. Unfortunately, not getting the falling rock text skip there. There's all of these minor cool things in this run that are just so cool, so unique and fun to just run around in. I mean, this truly is my favorite speed run. And yeah, so there's a few other things that are going to happen here. So right there, I got a 1 frame A press to skip Midna jumping over to the next ledge. Not available at every trigger, but every time that it is available, it saves a minor amount of time, and again is 1 frame. So not something that you'll get all the time. There's another one coming up here at this next Midna Z prompt, which will be just dashing across here a little bit. And let's see if I get this one. I do. So you can see Link dashing with Midna there. That's kind of the indication for someone who's not just in tune with the timing that that does skip Midna running across. That concludes the first sewer sequence, and also the only sewer sequence of Goron Mines RTA. So this next trick here is one of the, if not the biggest gatekeepers in Twilight Princess. It is called Sword and Shield Skip. If you know anything about Twilight Princess speedrunning, you've probably heard of Sword and Shield Skip, because it is what gives so many people that try to learn the game such a hard time. It's a very difficult, and it's a precise trick. It's difficult. It actually is rather lenient on timing, but it basically involves using this Bulblin here, his name is Hugo, to stand in a specific spot, and then as he tries to attack you standing in that specific spot, you time a couple of jump attacks to do a long jump attack over a ground trigger where Midna will stop you from going into Fair and Twilight, into the further trigger that just lets you into Fair and Twilight. There's a lot of moving parts because you're trying to push this enemy around and get him into a specific spot, and you can see him fighting with me here, trying to hit me immediately. That is a very fast Sword and Shield skip. That is impressively quick. It's not often that when Hugo is attacking you like that, will you end up with a good position to do Sword and Shield skip from so quickly. So it can take a lot of time, and really it's a test of not just your ability to maneuver Hugo and maneuver Link around, but also to be patient. See when you have your attack, know that you have your attack, and it's not uncommon for runners to fail it. Even highly experienced runners, it's not uncommon to see them just fail Sword and Shield skip semi-randomly. It's not that we don't know what we're doing, it's just that sometimes patience gets the best of us, and we don't wait it out until we see something that we like, and we try for something that's a little riskier, or maybe we do see something that we thought we liked, but the camera angle was slightly off, so it wasn't exactly what we thought it was. There's a few different things that can go into that, and it's all of those things are what add up to make the trick such a gatekeeper. Unfortunately, it is in most runs, and it keeps a lot of new runners, prospective runners, from continuing. There are runs that don't use it, there are routes that don't use it, but optimal routes do use it, and most people want to learn what is optimal. We're going to do the Fair and Twilight here, which is something that you won't commonly see in Twilight Princess runs, though I personally almost exclusively run categories that do it. So there's going to be a lot of... I personally really like Fair and Twilight for a lot of the reason I like sewers so much. There's so many minor things, like what I just did there with that bug was I did a Midna charge attack and bounced over it in such a way that I landed slightly around the corner, saving a very minimal amount of time compared to just bogging against the wall and running around. But things like that are just so neat, and I tried for a small thing there where you jump attack onto one ledge and dash over and grab the other ledge. Such these neat, fun little time saves, trying to whip around, grabbing that as quickly as possible. That's really what this is all about, and that's what I really love about this category, this game, and this split. Uh, Killing those bugs, we do a little bit of a weird route for what Fair and Twilight categories normally do in Goron Mines RTA. And that's because of something that we're going to do in a little bit, which I will explain when we get there. So we're going to actually be collecting nearly every tier, and we're going to actually do a trick called Early Master Sword, which allows us to get the Master Sword early. We're going to do it twice. So Goron Mines RTA is actually a category that we generally recommend to beginners because it gets you used to these hard tricks in a short run. It gets a new runner used to these hard tricks that they're going to see in every run, and you don't want to be failing over and over and then have to sit through the rest of a 3-hour run when you've failed something 5 times and you're supposed to be 13 minutes in your mind, but you're now 20 minutes in, and you just feel bad the whole way through. So Goron Mines RTA, that's another thing that it offers, is a short experience that you can be more comfortable in getting used to those difficult things to do. There are other categories that we have where the focus is still oriented towards a beginner, but the focus is on playing the game instead of focusing on these hard tricks. And that's just, two sides of the same coin if you want to do a game like this where we have such a long run and such fickle techniques. All right, so this is going to be early Master Sword here. So we're going to use this Shadow Beast here, biting it really quickly to reset its attack animation so it comes over a little faster. There's a little bit of RNG. That was a bad swing. That is a good swing, but unfortunately I fail the trick. So we're going to try again. This is another one of those tricks. It's nowhere near as bad as Sword and Shield Skip, but this is another one of those tricks that beginners can find very difficult. Getting up there nice and easily. We're going to not go over to the Sacred Grove like we would if we were going to get the Master Sword. We will do that in a moment. But we're actually going to skip around the Shadow Beast fight and go to kill these last couple of bugs, because what we really had as our objective with collecting the bugs is to leave those original 2 bugs as the final bugs to collect. So we're going to collect these tiers here and head back into that Shadow Beast fight. Now, re-entry is actually pretty easy because fortunately you can just walk in. There is a damage wall, but it brings you in. It doesn't push you out, like so. So being careful here resetting the Shadow Beasts, because if you finish the fight, that is it. Now, it's really easy to not do that. You just do exactly what I did there. You can't actually finish the fight with just spin attacks, getting the second Early Master Sword or EMS very quickly. You can't actually soft lock yourself with the fight by just doing those spin attacks, and that's exactly why I did them. Now we're in the Sacred Grove, so we're going to get our first Awu. We go woo, 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 woo. So now we're in the Sacred Grove, nice and easily. All this is now what is intended to be multiple hours into the game after you've collected the 3 fused shadows. But we're up there in 18 minutes. This is a relatively relaxed chase sequence. This is a really good spot for where donations would be if this were in a marathon run or for just general banter. Not really too much going on. We're just walking over, hitting the Skull Kid a couple of times, 3 times to be specific, and eventually going into the Skull Kid fight arena. And that was the second hit. Doing a nice little delayed dash there so that you get extra burst of speed off the edge to clear the water to not actually land in it. Another one of those minor movement tech things that this game is so full of. And again, another one of those minor movement things. Be attacking off the edge, not being up top there. I'm now down below where Skull Kid jumped down to, and I can just chase right after him. Point that you could even, if you were paying attention, you saw his little wisp as he teleported away. That is a little bit of RNG. That pause is unintentional. That's skipping the cutscene, where if Skull Kid in the arena down there is looking around as part of his animation, which is random when that is, then you can't hear, he cannot start the cutscene for some reason. So the RNG in that being runners will watch Skull Kid, and if they don't see him turning, they will try to skip the cutscene. If he starts to turn as he's out of frame, then you will still pause like that. Collecting some rupees. There's no actual use for rupees in this run. So we're just doing that for fun. See how many rupees I can get in a Goron Mines RTA run. Here's some more oohs. Ooh woo, oh woo, ooh woo. This is the Master Sword puzzle, or as I like to call it, Ladurdaloo. Because this is a very normalized puzzle, to the point that you can write down the solution and it will work every single time. And that solution is Ladurdaloo. Left, down, up, 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 right, right, down, 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 left, up. It can also be mirrored. You can swap like the lefts with rights and the rights with lefts, and that does work too. But it's not as fun to say Redaldaroo. Redaldaroo's not that bad. I've just never said it before. I do Ladurdaloo. Getting the Master Sword in 22 minutes. 22 minutes, 22 seconds to be exact. There's a lot of twos there. And it is Tuesday as I'm recording this. So, that doesn't tell you something. It doesn't tell you something. Because it's just kind of a day of the week. But yeah, that's the Master Sword. We don't technically collect the Master Sword until mid-cutscene, weirdly. I have the Master Sword when Link grabbed the sword. They, for some reason, sync the get item with that. Really cool, neat, funny effect. But also, for some reason, where the game actually assigns the sword to you. We're going to go through an unskippable cutscene here. That is one of the other nice things about Twilight Princess is most cutscenes are skippable. There are very few that are unskippable. There are 2 that you see in any percent run and 3 that you see in a 100% run that are of notable length. There just aren't really that many. There are some minor ones that you end up watching that aren't long at all. Like every boss death is an unskippable cutscene. They're usually about 50 seconds. But those are more minor. The cutscenes that I'm talking about are minutes long. Goron Mines RTA will have literally this cutscene and the Virus Death cutscene, and one secret surprise cutscene that are not skipped. Having difficulty warping to South Farron, but we're warping to South Farron. So the next thing that we're going to do is, we did Back in Time earlier, and I explained very little about it. I explained what a bit save was pretty quickly, bit standing for Back in Time. Now we're going to do probably the most weirdly technical thing with Back in Time, which is called Back in Time Equipped, or Byte, because we call it bit, and we just kind of wanted to make it say byte. Fair enough. So what we're going to do here is, we just finished the Farron Twilight. Well, we want to get to Goron Mines eventually, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the Elden Twilight. How do we get to the Elden Twilight fastest? Well, we're going to save warp, and what this is going to put us at is the very south end of South Farron, right next to where the Orden Bridge is. And then we're going to do Back in Time on that same bridge that we did it from before, in a safer way than was done before. This is what is normally done for marathon runs, but it's also just optimal in this situation. It's a safe method to do that trick. And if we start our file as Link Void's there, select that same file that we just saved on, then it will teleport us, because we have the right associations on the file, into the King Bulblin 1 cutscene. And we're going to fight King Bulblin 1, we're just going to chase him around here, but just to explain a little bit about those associations, basically, because you can't just do that with any file, that would be ridiculous. Because our specific file had the correct room ID and map state, the game recognized that we had a valid address for Hyrule Field of that same state, and that same state valid address is just the King Bulblin 1 fight. And so it says, oh, you should be there. Finishing the first phase, that's just some RNG stuff. There are some minor tech things to it, but this is the flashier part. So if we rear the horse at a specific point and turn around, and then we can try to skip a cutscene that's not skippable, but knock King Bulblin off in what is normally a jousting sequence, but following him alongside himself and just hitting him a few times. It's a nice little bit of tech that we can do there. And that does put us in it puts us in Kakariko Village, but because Kakariko is not supposed to be in Twilight after the King Bulblin 1 fight, it puts it in a weird state. All we have to do is go into the Sanctum here, leave the door, or go in and leave again, and that reloads the state. Now we properly have the Shadow Beasts that are normally here when you would first show up in Kakariko in Twilight, defeating them as human, because we have the Master Sword. We can be human in Twilight. We can now transform at will, and we're going to do a few things as human. Not very many in Elden Twilight, but for example, collecting the Elden Vessel is faster as human than it is as wolf. Again, more minor things that just add up over time. We're going to roll to the edge of the water here, and chain rolls as long as we can, and I chained them for quite a while here, but we are going to transform after the load zone because I got some good roll chains in. After you're out of the water, it stops being... Oh. Going all the way down, this is something that was not found to be faster. This is me doing post-commentary on an older run of mine. I must have thought that this was faster at this time. I mean, I can reasonably see why. but this waiting here, unfortunately, makes it not faster to do what I just did. So Elden Twilight is, I'm going to sound like a broken record, a very fun sequence because it has a heavy focus on movement tech. Yeah, I'm a broken record. I enjoy the parts of the run that are heavy on movement tech and not heavy on, like, random glitches. Go figure. At this point, where I've said it now 3 times, I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. So, we collect the tiers, unlike in Fair and Twilight, where we were leaving them behind in that order so that we could go back and collect the final tiers and go and do back in time equipped. In Elden, we are just collecting the tiers. We just want to collect them as quickly as possible, so we have a specific route for how we go through the Elden Twilight. And we, for example, leave that bug there because, well, there's a bug upstairs too. We bonk that wall as we exit because it knocks this one down early. So we can collect this one, and then the tier, because tiers do have a delay in their ability to be grabbed on the GameCube and Wii versions of the game. That was changed on the HD version. We can come back and just collect that immediately. And now we're going to do another dash cancel, like I said before. So I'm going to climb up here, dash cancel, and that is the fastest movement to get into this abandoned house here. Again, just collecting the tiers in what is the fastest order. There's some parts of this where we are literally waiting for the tier. There is no better option, unfortunately. But then there are some other ones, like coming up shortly. So first we're going to go into the bomb shop here, collect a tier here, do a nice little movement trick to knock the bug down, kill it, and then collect it as we get to the top. So putting it down there, going to B attack it, climb, climb, and then I'm going to side hop, and I do have to wait a little bit, but not very long. Going out here, now we're doing what's called bomb house skip. So there are a couple of ways to do it. One is human with the boomerang, and one is wolf. This is the harder version, it's as wolf. And so relatively, it is a harder trick, but I have a lot of experience with it, so I personally don't find any difficulty with it anymore. It was a very hard trick to learn, but I've done it for years, so I am very accustomed to what we do there. We basically jump over the trigger that sets that bug that goes into the bomb house to go into the bomb house and go around it by jumping across the little gap there and trigger it a lot closer. And then if we stand by the sign as it passes by, we can actually kill it. And the game then assumes, well, the bug is dead, so the bomb shop is not there, and then gives us all 3 of those tiers. Just a quick little manipulation for getting the bug to be close to the dig spot there. Now we're moving into the final part of the Elden Twilight, the Death Mountain Trail segment. Jumping on down, and that's the load zone right there. Goron Mines RTA is, again, a quick run. We're about halfway through now. Over halfway through, actually. And immediately after the Elden Twilight, we're going to be trying to enter the Goron Mines. Going to kill that bug and then stand very close, slightly off the edge, actually, so that we can collect that tier and be aligned up in a good position to immediately dash away. the Shadow Beast fight there, we just go through and kill them in an order that is best. The order in which they're defeated doesn't matter, except it only matters that you defeat the last two of them in quick succession. And with only a few specific attacks does it let you do that. The game intends for you to do it with the mid charge attack, but you can also do it as human, and you can do a very specific combo to do it without being human or having that mid charge attack that I mentioned. And that is actually used in the any percent route these days. So now we're on to the one segment that we have before entering Goron Mines. I mentioned before that we have 3 items total. We have the lantern that we got already. That was our very first item. We have the Master Sword that we got when we did early Master Sword and went through the Grove. And now we have the Iron Boots. We want to grab the Iron Boots as quickly as possible. So yeah. There is a little bit of a interesting routing problem. It's obviously one that is solved, otherwise the run wouldn't be here. In that we want to enter Goron Mines, but we have the Master Sword. There's a few ways around that. One of them is to grab the spinner, which we're not going to do that. The other one is to do something called text displacement, and there are only a few sources that you can get text displacement off of. The Mayor Bow of Orden Village is one of those sources. He is the one that gives us the Iron Boots. So, we're going to do some counting. So, as a consequence of the back in time glitch, Mayor Bow is in a broken state. He thinks that we are able to get the Iron Boots already, but he's not in the correct spot to do the cutscene, so his text is broken. This is how we do text displacement off of him. We walk away with broken text. So if we count the text boxes, this is the 4th text box, this is the 5th text box, and we leave. You can technically do it from any 3 through 6 to get the same effect. But now we have text displacement, and we're going to warp to Death Mountain. We have to be careful here to not go into a cutscene that is a very far ways away and is very easy to avoid, but if we go into the cutscene, then that does kill text displacement, which is one reason why you would want to count to 5, not to 6, because then you can go back and get text displacement again. A fun little thing that I like to do there, you get a little shimmy on Wolflink. Not required or anything, but he does a little shake in place. So all we have to do is, after the meteor spawns, go over here and jump up. That's all that we have to do to avoid that. If you run the exact opposite direction, which you are facing that direction, then you run into a cutscene that kills the run. Or kills TD, rather, text displacement. So we're going to climb up here. We're using the shield to block, and then we're going to just tap them, and tap the Gorons here. The Gorons don't like humans, so they're trying to get us down. But here, if we do some side hops and some shenanigans, we can usually skip both of them. Not quite skipping the second one, the harder one to skip there. And then this Goron here, he just tries to smack us, so we shield it and stab him and go straight up. Now we're going to go into this main hall here. I do want to be full health. Not for any particular reason other than being full health when I enter Goron Mines is nice. So we're going to talk to Goron here, the Elder, and when he says, hey, I'm now able to enter Goron Mines. It doesn't look like I am, but I am. But like I said, I want the iron boots. So we've now used that text displacement. Text displacement is finicky. We can't just get text displacement and then finish getting the iron boots from Bo, because that will get rid of the text displacement value. We want to get text displacement, open up Goron mines, go back, complete that sequence with the Mare Bow, get the iron boots, go back to Goron mines, enter Goron mines, and then do the dungeon. So we're going to run back across this bridge here as Wolf for the second time. Woo, as the Wolf says. And so when we do the Mare Bow sequence, this is a sumo wrestling sequence. It is RNG, it's random. It is rock, paper, scissors with stacked odds. So we have a few options available to us. We can slap him, we can grab him, or we can dodge. Dodging is always bad. Dodging is just always bad. Grabbing is technically the statistically optimal option for the second phase. The first phase, slapping, is optimal. But if we get good RNG, slapping is always optimal because we can one cycle with good mashing. So I'm going to slap here. Bad RNG. Still bad RNG. Good RNG. And then immediately knocked off. That requires good mashing to knock him off immediately like that. You have to mash anywhere 12 times per second or higher. The game does not read anything above 15, however. Second phase, this is where the RNG becomes a bigger factor. He immediately steps to the side, so slapping was optimal. He would have dodged some grab. Finishing the Iron Boot sequence. Collecting the Iron Boots. The final item that we'll get for the Goron Mines RTA run. Shouldn't be a gold on a segment watch back, but okay. And then we'll warp back to Goron Mines, enter the dungeon, and continue to the end of the run. We're already there. And so we're going to do a trick called Early Elevator here. So this is going to be an out-of-bounds clip where I just do a specific spot where I climb up and do a roll. I can clip right out of bounds across a seam, and there is collision, so then I jump across, and there's only one-sided collision, jump back in bounds over here where the elevator is, and we're going to get on the elevator, doing a nice little equip mid-air to land right on the switch, just a little bit of a time save. We're going to talk to this Goron to get him to get out of the way, but now the Gorons are out of the way, so we can just roll straight in. That's not actually required. You can actually, doing it again. So you can actually roll past them in the state they were in before, but I didn't have the iron boots, so I didn't want to enter right then, though I could have. So we're going to do some interesting strategies here, some damage boosting to get past that flame jet, and then another damage boost to get past this one. Very easy, you just roll into them and bounce off the side. Now, this is something that's different from a lot of other runs that do Goron Mines. With the boomerang, we would do something entirely different here. Without the boomerang, we have to take some damage, use some iframes to roll through the fire a little bit, get hit by the fire again, roll through it, and then over, and that's how we skip doing any of the timer segments where we turn the flames off. This second room here, this is a cycle-based room where the cycle is not able to really be hit reasonably anymore, though it is possible it's a bit tighter. We want to get this key and go to the door right across there. Then there's some spinning platforms that we can do a trick called Risky but Time Saver to note. Saves 4 seconds only, that is the name. It does not save 4 seconds, saves 2.8. But we did not get that cycle. It's an early cycle that you can hit. But because of that bonk at the very beginning, basically that was just immediately telling us we will not be hitting that cycle. Now this trick here, this is called slab clip. So we're going to pull on the slab 3 times and then roll perpendicular to the slab. And you can see Link flowing with the slab, and we're right on through. Just a little tiny gap. Tiny, tiny little gap. Now, Goron Mines does boast a lot of skippable cutscenes. They really like to pan around the room. And they also really like their magnetic switches. Or, sorry, their magnet lifts and their heavy switches. So we're going to get the first key shard here from Elder 1. This is the Elder 1 right here. Just talk to him, and he is nice to us. He is not going to try to wrestle us. We were allowed in, so the story here within the game is that we were allowed in, and we are trying to save Darbus, the elder of the Goron clan that went in to try and put to rest this evil that's stirring within the Goron mines, because they get their food from the mines. They are rock people that eat rocks. So we're going to go in and try to save Darbus and figure out what happened to him. So we're going to walk across this magnet ceiling here. There is a Wii specific glitch to just walk across here, and it does make the Wii version of the game optimal for this category specifically, because that just saves 42 seconds. I'll let you guess why. It's because we're walking slowly and there's no other option. Well, there is some stabbing you can do in saving frames. I didn't opt to do that here because this was a relatively solid run at the time. So I didn't want to go for something risky, because if you miss that, then you lose more time than you could have saved with getting the strat entirely correctly. So coming up here, like I said, Goron Mines has a lot of these cutscenes, and not this cutscene here, which we're going to skip, but this next cutscene is actually my favorite cutscene in the game. So we're going to roll up here, and we're going to step on this switch, right? Oh. Look at this. This is my favorite cutscene in the game, where it brings the switch over and then hands right back. So that is the reason that that's my favorite cutscene in the game, is because that is a skippable cutscene. We do not skip that cutscene because the time it takes for the game to skip the cutscene is slower than you actually just watching the cutscene. And it's the only instance of that that I'm aware of, and I love that so much. So this is a very cool strat here. I love this strat. This is called Wolf Gate Clip. We're going to line up in a specific spot and jump right through the gate. Very clean, very nice. Love that strat. That is one of the coolest strats, in my opinion. All right, so because we don't have any other way to do this, we're just going to spin attack, and we didn't quite get on the edge. The idea there is that if you spin attack and you grab the ledge, you get knocked by by that bridge. That when that bridge comes down, it hits you, and then you're just down there. You can do a little bit of a skip there. Unfortunately, not getting it. Now, this next sequence here is the wonderful, wonderful beta build room, uh, where we have invisible collision very notably sticking out, and I bonked on it there. This next room, this is the what two TP runners is the trick that makes Goron Mines RTA. Within Goron Mines makes it unique. This is Key Shard Skip, Key Shard 2 Skip to be specific. So we're going to line up a specific spot, lining up my heart there, with a slight angle, dropping on there, standing in yet another specific spot, and jumping, grabbing the ledge, first try, very nice. Skipping, going into that room, talking to the second elder, getting the second key shard, climbing up the ladder in the room, getting all the way across. Skips, saves us 35, 40 seconds easily. Very cool trick there. Very fun to perform, and again, it is just an abuse of the movement tools that I had available. Lining up a specific angle, and just rolling and jumping. That's all it really is. This is a very cool 2-cycle here, so if we do a little bit of a setup, stand in this specific spot, which if you were paying attention, you would have seen 3 jump attacks and 3 back hops, equipping the iron boots on the second one. That puts us in a position where when we throw Danguro here off the edge, he gets locked underneath on the and takes the second hit immediately. It's a cycle skip, basically, the second cycle of his attack. He just immediately gets hit a second time. There is an RNG third quick cycle where, as you saw him bouncing up while I had control of Link, if I had landed a spin attack on him, then that would have stopped his momentum and immediately allowed me to grab him again and get yet a third hit very, very quickly. That is RNG. I didn't get the option there, but very cool fight, very silly and broken. That's probably the best way to put it. Silly and broken. Wrapping up the dungeon now, so we skipped the second key shard, but we need 3 key shards to go to the end. Well, no, we don't really. The game actually only checks for the 3rd key shard. Doing some test shots there at the base of the statue, and then knocking it down quickly. So we only really need to get the 3rd. We don't need to go back and get the 2nd. So we're going to talk to the final elder here, get the final key shard, and now the game considers us as having all parts of the master key, the big key to get into the final boss, the boss of the Goron Mines, Virus. So we're going to now make our way over there. We need to do some backtracking. We're going to go back through the room that we saw Danguro in, which is where we are right now. And so we're going to do one of my more favorite things. Apparently I didn't actually do it there, though. So there are multiple different kinds of LJAs. This would be more noteworthy if I had the boomerang, because boomerang LJAs are the most prevalent and one of the more breaky things in the game. But Sword and Shield Skip earlier was an example of a different kind of LJA, long jump attack. It was an enemy long jump attack using Hugo there. The 3rd and final kind of LJA that you have is an NPC LJA, where you can target an NPC and do a long jump attack off of them. So in Goron Mines RTA, we're going to make our way over here In other categories, we have the ability to skip right past this sequence where we have to pull this statue and make our way over with the magnet switch and all of that, which is the casual way to go through. Unfortunately, because we don't have all of the tools that we would need, or any of the tools really, we only have now the bow that we get within the dungeon, along with the 3 items that we entered the Goron mines with. So we have to do it basically casually. But we are basically at the end here. So making our way into the second to final room. There's one last cool thing before we enter the boss. So if we stand in a specific spot here, aiming a little bit too far to the right, come on, there we go. You can knock down the rope from the beginning there. You can barely even see it. Frankly, it took me longer to be able to see it than I was not doing that strat for. There was a period of time where I was doing that strat where I just didn't know what I was aiming at. I didn't think it was visible. It actually is. And entering the final fight here, this is Virus, or the reason I play in German, as we know in the German language, this is not Virus, this is Flammatron, the best name for the best boss fight. This boss fight is actually very, very simple. You shoot him in the face, pull the chain, and stab him in the eye. So Virus or Flammatron here is Darbus, as he's been taken over by the Twilight essence of this fused shadow that's in the Goron mines, and this is what was causing all of the difficulty that Darbus went to go investigate. And unfortunately, he succumbed to it. So getting to the third hit here, this does follow the general Zelda formula of 3 hits and you're down. And so we're going to do yet another roll stab, and that's the end of the fight. Timing is not quite up yet, though that is basically the end of the run. The only thing that we have to do now is exit the dungeon. Very cool run, very quick run. Shows a lot of not just the neat breaky stuff that is in Twilight Princess with the boomerang and with super jumps and all of that, and map glitch and all of that sort of thing, but it shows a lot of the more minor stuff, and it puts it like right on the forefront, and that's what's so cool about this category. It's a wonderful category to showcase. It's nice and quick. There's a reason that we race this category as basically our main race category, if not any percent, because we do also show off the 3-hour category, of course. Very, very fun run. And timing will be on saying yes to Midna's prompt here, so we would do that in 3, 2, now. Very, very cool. Anyways, that is Goron Mines RTA in Twilight Princess in a nutshell. And yeah, so thank you.